first time is still spellbinding thanks to the open space, bright and cheery music, and multitude of things to do. Its smaller size means that you're collecting things at a faster rate by nature, giving you plenty to do as you familiarize yourself with how the rest of the game will progress. Mumbo's Mountain starts the game off wonderfully and leaves a perfect taste of what you should expect. But it just barely didn't make it into the top 10, so let's finish this off with the 10 best Banjo-Kazooie worlds. Number 10, Showdown Town. Okay, I'm sure you're all shocked not only that a world from Nuts and Bolts made it into the top 10, but that it's Showdown Town of all places, which also makes this my favorite hub world in the entire series by a sizable margin. Well, let me explain. The reason why I like it so much is that it actively encourages and rewards exploration. With all the other levels in Nuts and Bolts, everywhere you need to go is marked on your map, so you don't need to take time to get to know your surroundings. Showdown Town revels in doing the opposite, filling the town with so much stuff to see, but never directing you towards any of it. But searching for that stuff is worth your while, as grabbing crates in this world gives you more parts for your vehicles, unlocking new potential for you. That focus on wandering around, picking up on details and making mental notes on what is where, and figuring out how to reach it all, and reaping the benefits of doing so. That's exactly what I'm looking for in a Banjo world. Plus, it's where Nuts and Bolts feels the most like its predecessors, with the largest amount of on-foot gameplay and heaviest emphasis on collection over challenges. It is perhaps a bit too cluttered and can feel overwhelming, but that's why I think restricting vehicle usage to the trolley here is a brilliant move, making you capable but not completely unshackled, if that makes sense. So that means that Nuts and Bolts just barely scraped into the top echelon. It had quite a few of the worst levels in the game, but the ones that are good are definitely worth talking about. Number 9, Mayhem Temple. The layout for this one is a bit weird, essentially a big upward spiral for the main areas that splinters off into several sub-areas, giving you a sense of linear vertical progression rather than being a flatter or more square shape. But that helps make Mayhem Temple stand out, as the more guided progression gives you a clear sense of direction right from the get-go. Most areas are blocked off, introducing you to the new interconnected level design that TUI adopted by showing you areas that you can't quite access yet, then letting you find the method to open them later. It's very streamlined in that way, and while I know that design philosophy isn't to everyone's liking, I personally love it, and Mayhem Temple makes for a memorable introduction to it. The Mayan theming is a good twist on the typical opening grassland area cliche, and just about every sub-area from the prison compound to the treasure chamber has some pretty cool objectives. It's definitely brought down by Targetzan's temple though. I'm starting to sour a bit on the Brigo Blaster sections, and this one is no exception, but the rest of this opening stage more than makes up for it. Number 8, Jollyroggers Lagoon. I've always maintained that this is one of the best examples of a 3D water level done right, escaping a lot of the trappings that these kinds of stages typically suffer from. There's no fear of drowning thanks to the hyperoxygenated water, but that doesn't mean it's not dangerous to explore down in the depths because of all the creatures trying to kill you, like those octopuses and especially the pufferfish. I can't stand those guys. It's got a nice batch of challenges too, and the level is big enough to give you room to breathe, no pun intended, when swimming around. A welcome addition since you're essentially playing 75% of this level in a totally different gameplay style. And the port town that you start in just looks awesome, rustic and worn in with a feeling of history to it. As I said, I love portside and coastal locations, and this is one of the best. I kinda wish this section wasn't so small though. Most of the level is underwater, and that's cool, but I love this part of Jollyroggers Lagoon so much that I wanted more from it, especially with that catchy tune. Though that doesn't hold a candle to the Atlantis theme, hands down the best banjo song Grant Kirkhope ever composed. It's a wonderful, beautiful accompaniment to a pretty sweet world. Number 7, Hellfire Peaks. There's a couple of reasons why I love Hellfire Peaks so much, encompassing both the surface level factors and deeper design aspects. First, there's the theme, a literal combination of fire and ice with a lava side and ice side right next to each other. I don't think TUI was the first ever game to use this concept, and it certainly wasn't the last, even within the Banjo series, but while admittedly it doesn't combine the two themes that much, keeping the two sides mostly separate, I still think the novelty is pretty great. Honestly, there's enough connections and warps between the two locations to at least make it convenient to travel through, and the combination of environments on a visual level is great. Both the lava and ice side look totally different but complement each other so well. The reds and blacks with yellow accents of the lava half and the blues and whites with green accents of the ice half work perfectly together. But what I love most is that Hellfire Peaks brings the game back towards platforming gameplay instead of relying on too many gimmicks. As the second to last major level of the game, you've already learned a ton of moves which expand your maneuverability quite a bit. So there's plenty of tasks, especially on the lava side, that introduce dangerous but incredibly satisfying set pieces that you need to traverse correctly or else suffer a horrible fate. No matter which side you're on, you have to keep your wits about you, and it makes this level really stand out. Number 6. Bubble Gloop Swamp. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, because I rarely hear this level talked about when discussing favorite worlds from Banjo-Kazooie, but I absolutely love Bubble Gloop Swamp. Despite the dirty swamp aesthetic, there's a lot of life and energy put in here, with the ambient noises accompanying the song giving this place a very nature-heavy focus that makes it feel alive. And that song is absolutely fantastic, an underrated composition in my opinion. Not to mention the Jiggy Challenges, as this is where the game gets a little more involved with its objectives since you've already learned a number of abilities by this point. Time-based Jiggy sprints, shock spring jumping up the huts, feeding all the golden Croctus statues, it's all great fun. Really, the only thing I have to complain about is the world's transformation, as the crocodile is pretty slow and its bite attack is pretty unwieldy to use in the midst of gameplay. But that's honestly a tiny black mark on an otherwise fantastic level. Number 5. Witchy World. Here's a level I really didn't appreciate until replaying these games for this video, since something in me always looked down on Witchy World for some reason. I have always loved the theme, a run-down dark carnival with plenty of rides, attractions, and thrills that doesn't really carry an atmosphere of joy, but rather a strange foreboding. Something in the haunting music which somehow manages to make a calliope sound threatening, and the grim, muted colors give this theme park an edge that's welcome, and makes it fit perfectly within Banjo-Tooie. I guess the problem I had with this world was that I felt it didn't use its theme park concept well enough, but I don't know why I thought that because just about every Jiggy here is tied to some sort of attraction. From sideshow type games and challenges to straight up platforming sections built out of thrill rides, it's all a bunch of incredibly fun and satisfying set pieces that make for a great level. Now if only we could ride that flume of doom. Number 4. Mad Monster Mansion. One of the things I love about the levels of the first two games is how the visuals and sound design really encase you in the world, and nowhere is that more apparent than Mad Monster Mansion. Dark and creepy, while still maintaining that cartoonish style, it fits perfectly with the rest of the game while embracing a more brooding atmosphere. It's not really a scary level, but it takes that idea of a haunted house and paints that Rareware style over it with a ton of dilapidated, worn down rooms that have danger around every corner. This is a stage that's focused less on platforming and more on interesting objectives and characters, with a lot of great tasks and a ton of places to explore. My favorite might be playing the piano with moat sand. It's a simple task, but setting it inside a giant church with an organ you can climb onto is pretty awesome. And once again, it's got a phenomenal piece of music to go along with it. I realize that I've been saying that for a lot of these worlds, but damn it, I cannot sing the praises of this soundtrack enough. Grant Kirkhope, you beautiful man, you. Number 3. Cloud Cuckoo Land. Hands down the weirdest and trickiest level in the series in terms of visuals, Cloud Cuckoo Land essentially poses the question, what if you just take whatever random ideas you can come up with and throw them all into a level set high above the clouds? And you know what? It actually works brilliantly. Whatever this level loses in a unified theme, it more than makes up for it with an unabashedly wacky and cartoonish vibe. Sometimes the levels in 2E feel confined by their concept, as if they focused more on doing justice to the selected environment rather than creating enjoyable tasks. This stage completely avoids that problem by making each Jiggy quest extremely varied in where you're going and what you're doing. Eliminating germs in a trash can, shooting down Zubbas in their nest, and entering a giant wad of stinky cheese, it's bizarre but oh so memorable. There are definitely some sore spots like the boss Minji Django, who isn't hard but can certainly be annoying, and of course the dreaded Canary Mary rematch. But I honestly have way too much fun with the rest of the level's challenges to get upset about that. Cloud Cuckoo Land is a phenomenal way to end a phenomenal game, as well as 2E's presence on this list as the last two levels are both from the first title. Number 2. Treasure Trove Cove. For a lot of Banjo stages, the level designers put a little too much space for the amount of stuff you're collecting. Naturally, as the games progress, you'd expect there would be more level to explore, but it often feels like there's way too much ground you need to cover in order to grab everything. Kazooie mostly avoids that problem, and honestly, the reasons these last two levels get the top spot over the others is just that they're the perfect size. As to why Treasure Trove Cove got the runner-up slot, it's really only because I like the aesthetics of this level less. Honestly, I could go back and forth between these last two though, because Treasure Trove Cove makes for an incredible level. You meet a lot of great characters like series regular Captain Blubber, and travel across terrain that's surprisingly complex for a second level, with a lot of horizontal and vertical distance. Tons of great platforming challenges here too, and this is the level where you learn how to fly, significantly expanding the amount of ways to get around. Getting up to the lighthouse is probably my favorite part. It's a simple enough platforming bit, but I honestly love how the music cuts away to wind because of how high up you are. It's a sight for sure. And number 1, Freeze Easy Peak. What an amazing level to end this list on. Freeze Easy Peak also has the perfect balance between platforming and collecting, and looks and sounds just lovely. Like I just said, I prefer the snowy aesthetics of this to Treasure Trove Cove, as it covers a lot of different parts of a winter level. Snowy mountains and cliffs, icy waters, a frozen cave, a Christmas village, it has it all, and does it all splendidly.